Hello, welcome back. Okay, so where I'm going to be picking back up off is so we got the client-side code that was required for the blog to um, we got that deployed um, to the website, but now we need to push our Rails service um, to the server in order to serve the files. So that's what I'm going to do, and we've got it tested, we've got it working. So now we need to get it to the actual server in order to to start using it on the site live. So I'm going to take you through the process that I use with my servers. I put everything inside of Docker containers and then serve them through that using Fusion Passenger. And I like that design because if I it isolates things in it isolates them from other processes as well as packages them really nicely, and I create little deploy scripts that will literally deploy things without really what am I trying to say? It deploys things in a very easy to use it's very portable, so you can take it, you can deploy on one server, and then immediately deploy to another by just typing a simple command, and it does the whole process of everything all in one. So it's really helpful, really useful, and I'm just going to take you through that as I'm building this out to actually start using the Docker containers and stuff like that. So a couple things we're going to need, right? We are going to need a what they call a Docker file. And so you name it Docker file. We'll put some code in there, or some commands and stuff. And then we're also going to need our use Nginx configuration file to set up the web service endpoints and stuff like that. And that should be it. Okay, so the particular version of let's see, I used was it Passenger Docker. This is the base image that I use, and there's multiple different versions. There are, let's see, where's the, yeah, there's Passenger with Ruby, Passenger with JRuby, Passenger Node.js, and then they have a full, which includes Ruby, Python, Node.js, and a bunch of different stuff, as well as customizable, which means that you can pick just one or the other and kind of customize the base image. But they're all based off of the same base image as well. So it's really nice to use this version. But basically, in their documentation here, they list out some things that we need for um, our let's see if I can. I usually do this on two screens, but since I can only record one screen at a time, I'm going to try to figure out a way to do this kind of side by side so you can see what's going on, and so I can copy from it. Well, I need to open the file first. So first thing we're going to do is create our Docker file, and we basically copy pieces over from this one that we want. So let's see, Fusion, Passenger, Ruby, 2.2. And I'm just going to use the latest, so I'm going to leave off the version. And then they set the environment home to root, and then this kick off the startup process for that particular container. Next, they say to add this to add to the bottom to add some cleanup. So we're going to do that. And then we put our build instructions in the middle. Okay. So, well, one of the other things is that it automatically has Nginx turned off. Running this command will turn Nginx on. So that's going to be one of the last things we want to do is turn it on. As well as here is a example Nginx config file. So we are going to open our Nginx config file, and then we're going to copy some of this over. We don't need all the comments and stuff. So this is going to run on port 8080, as you saw earlier. We're going to put the URL to the server name, which is videosquarantine.com. And then we're not going to call it web app. We're going to call it our blog API. And then that's going to point to the public folder, so it basically kind of A, works with Rails convention, and B, secures it from anybody going in and snooping around. So let's see, we need to turn these on inside of our Nginx config. So we'll put those in there. And if this is a Ruby app, specify the Ruby version. So it'll be, I think we're using 2.2 or maybe even 2.5. I am not too sure. Currently it looks like we're on 2.1, but this should work with 2.2 just fine. Plus we downloaded the we're targeting the 2.2 version of the passenger Ruby, so it just makes sense to use that. Okay, so we've got a lot of this copied over, a lot of this copied over. We got the, okay, so we set up the configuration file. Now we need to actually like start moving some of the configuration file into our server. You know, telling Nginx or telling Docker to actually start pulling that stuff in. So etc Nginx sites enabled default. Okay, remove the default site, add, and we're going to call it what do we call it? Nginx config into etc Nginx sites enabled, and then we're going to call it our blog API config. These are just naming conventions I use. Really, it can be, I believe, called anything. We're going to make our directory called blog API, and then we're going to run some commands to place the application in that folder. So what we need to do is we need to do add period, which means everything in this current directory, to /home/app/blog API, and that'll effectively copy everything over, and now our application will be in there. Let's see, is there anything else that I specifically need? I'm not going to be using Postgres at the moment or a SQL database. I'm at the moment just using yeah, that should be, I believe that's all I need. Just making sure. Yeah, I think that's really all I need. But I do need to run. There's a couple things, obviously, when you're dealing with a Rails application. What we want to do is switch to our set our working directory to our home app and blog API. That's the same in Docker. That's the same as running CD. So it actually takes you to that location. Now all commands run after that will be from that location. So first thing we need to do, of course, is we're going to run rake db create, or really just rake db migrate. Okay. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to expose port 8080. So that means that we are exposing out and receiving in port 8080 into this Docker container. Okay, and let's make this a little larger now that we've kind of gone through that documentation. So this is set up and this is set up, and I might have missed a step in here, but I'll show you kind of how to debug some of this stuff as well. Because I'm probably going to run into issues. I usually do. The other thing to note is that Docker containers will delete everything as soon as they're done. So persistence is a problem in the sense that you have to manage it. So everything inside of our DB folder, including our current database, is going to be deleted as soon as the application, what am I trying to say? As soon as the Docker container shuts down. So if it crashes or if I redeploy or something, everything that's inside this file will be completely gone. So we need to actually save that. And so the way to do that is you hook it up with a volume. Now, hooking up local volumes isn't supported in the Docker file that I know of. There is a command for volume, but it's more loading an external volume in, exposing a volume to other containers, I believe. So we need to, when we're running our commands, we need to handle that so that it actually gets copied over. Okay, so how do we do that? We will let's see. I haven't done this yet, to be honest with you, so we're going to try. I need to create a new file that I call deploy.sh, and that's my deployment script. So that'll take this whole Docker, everything, and fire it all off and get it to work. So I need to pull up an example because I sometimes forget. So we're just waiting for that to load up, sorry. Here we go. And did VidServe do it? I think VidServe did what I was looking for. So I've got that over here on the other screen. I'll just copy that over. And kind of show what that script looks like. And it's basically stop it, remove it, build it, and then expose the ports. And here's the name for it. And then here's the volume we're attaching. This is set as a read-only volume. And then this is the name, well, this is the built thing that, and they're all named the same. I just do that so that I don't have to worry about which one's which, but I do know that this, -t is what this is looking for versus the name is what this is looking for. So if you called this something different than this, that's okay. But everything else has to line up. So we're just I just follow the same thing. Blog API, and blog API, blog API, blog API, blog API, and blog API. We also need to export 80, or map the ports 8080 instead of 80, since something else is already running on them, which is the server that you're watching this video from. And then we don't want to map that to the public folder. That's how the other one works. And we don't want it to come from videos. We want it to come from, we'll say, blog API data or something. And that's going to go to our DB folder. So that's blog, home app, blog API DB. And this hopefully won't overwrite. I'm not 100% sure, and we'll just do some really simple tests. I'll pull up a site and look at things, and then I may or may not see stuff disappearing or persisting, and we'll figure that out as we go along. But that's basically the whole thing. So it requires these, 3 files, and then I get some really nice advantages. Once I do that. So we're gonna push this ball back up to the Git repository. So git add git. Nope, not that. We need to go into our workspace and into our blog backend and git add everything. Nope, that's not the right command either. Git commit first deployment and git push origin ori master, and okay. And now we have successfully pushed that back over into our blog backend over here. So you can see first deployment successfully made it up here. Awesome. So that's great. Oh yeah, I think that due to this convention, it's not going to have a problem. Hopefully, it may not run the migrations. See, there's some stuff that I'm not sure if these things are lining up. So we're gonna figure this out as we go along. So I need to open a new terminal, and we're gonna log on to the server that I have, root at videos quarantine.com. That will SSH me into the server that I have, and then I will I need to pull down, so we'll do git clone github.com username, and what was it, blog backend. Alright, so that pulled that down, and now it's just as simple as so we need to go into the folder. There we go. And then we can just, what's the command? Oh, sh deploy sh, and it should fire and start doing all of the stuff that Docker needs. It starts building the containers. It should start running the migration scripts. And stuff like that, and I'm not sure if this is gonna. I don't know if this is gonna work the way we want. We may want to run that as a separate process that fires after the container's deployed, as far as the the migration of the database. And right off the bat, we have some issues. Unable to find the image. Yeah, this is because the previous failed. So. This is, could not find I18N in any of the sources. Running db migrate. Yeah, so I think what I need to do is do the, oh, well, I forgot the bundle install. That's a big one. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that change right here. We'll just go Dockerfile and edit. And so we do need to run the migrate, of course, but we also need to run the bundle install. So that sadly can take a little bit of time. Where's my terminal? All right, so well, I need to pull down again, right? So git pull origin master. I should get that change. And then I can run the deploy script again. So now it's actually starting to pull down some of the bundled files. That's great. Concept of Docker. Docker is this, there was a feature that they added into the Linux kernel that allows for this new state of VM. So traditionally, a virtual machine or a VM runs completely separate of the host container. So a good example of like this the separation between them is if you have a Windows virtual machine running on a Mac or a Linux computer inside of a virtual machine. So they're completely separate. There are some ways that you can attach them. So like, you can attach your computer's hard drive to the virtual machine's hard drive as a like external drive or whatever, but everything is completely isolated. As you can tell, they're completely different operating systems, and they don't really interface with each other. So that's the traditional way of using a virtual machine. However, the Linux kernel was updated with this new feature that allows for the host operating system to be the host operating system of the virtual machine. So they're a lot more lightweight. They don't have to they don't have to have their own completely separate they're not completely separated from the OS, and therefore they have a really small footprint, and there's a lot of advantages to that, including the fact that we can do this whole Docker thing. Like Docker wouldn't be in existence if it wasn't for that change in the Linux kernel that allowed for this new VM state, this new shared OS state with isolated containers. So if you the benefits to using Docker is if let's say traditionally you're on some sort of machine, you're on a Linux server or a Mac computer or something like that, and you install a if you install a you install some sort of product, MySQL could be an example, and then port has already been allocated. Oh, because I have an example one of this trying to run on it. Okay, but if you have what is that called? If you have a Oh, yeah. So if you messed up the installation of something, it's going to cause, sometimes reversing out of. I know that I messed up a MySQL installation one time, and I had to completely reinstall the entire system. There was just no way that I could find to remove what I had done. I'd kind of destroyed it, and so, sometimes installing these things, it puts files everywhere, and it changes defaults. It changes the way things work, and if you don't set them up correctly, they can just kind of catastrophically fail, and it's a real nightmare. So the advantage of using Docker is you can do that, and you can completely mutilate your system, and it just doesn't work. And then you can just stop the container, and you're back to a working machine because it's all isolated inside its own file system and its own everything. So it's really nice to have that isolation. And then if I just don't feel like using MySQL anymore or whatever product I'm using, I can just uninstall the container and it's gone, and I don't have to worry about the extra leftover storage space or things like that. So there's a lot of advantages, and one of the most advantages, or the biggest advantages, is once you know how to use a Docker container, then you can use any Docker container. So on teams that use you have developers, and then you have this weird mix of the two called DevOps, and then you have your your actual sysadmins. And so your sysadmins know how to deploy your Docker containers. As a developer or DevOps, you know how to create a Docker container, and then DevOps or sysadmin can deploy that Docker container. So it's really simple to create. They don't have to know all your configuration of your file. You can completely automate the process. As you saw, I just type one command and it does the entire thing. And it's really simple. So then you just kind of hand them something, they just fire the script, it deploys, and then you just check and make sure that it works. So it's really, really nice. But as I mentioned, I have this blog Counts, which was my first attempt. It's written in Node at doing this the hit counters and stuff like that. And as I said, it's just not going to be persistent enough, and it's not really what I want. So I'm going to remove it. So the command is docker remove blog counts. Please stop it first. Okay, so I'll stop it, and then I will remove it whenever it is done. Okay. All right, so that's removed it from that. So now we can do our deploy script again, and we hopefully should get a success this time. Successfully built, and bang, it should be running, and it should be available and live on port 80 or 8080. So if we go to the blog, and you guys will see when I recorded this, of course, we can go to any of these and maybe okay, so a couple things to check out, like what's going on. So we're actually live in production. As you can see, we're right on the blog itself. Failed to load with a status of 502 bad gateway. Xorigin request is therefore not allowed access. I thought I handled this. I thought I handled the cross origin stuff. Where did I do that? That was in the wasn't it config application RB? Yep. It should be allowing all origins. So that's strange that it's not working. And also a status of 502 bad gate. Oh, that's why. Because the Nginx server is just not, it's not working at the moment. So, sorry about that. Okay, so I need to figure out why it's giving me a bad gateway error and not successfully working. And this can be kind of tough, but it's part of it. And I'm going to show you some really simple and easy and nice ways to do that. Step number one: if you scroll down far enough in this the Fusion Passenger documentation, you will find where is it? Docker. Oh, they changed the command to docker SSH instead of docker bash. Okay, well I still have docker bash on mine, but you go through and you run this thing, and it creates a basically allows you to SSH into your container based off of just the container ID. So this is a really, really nice tool, and tool to be run on the host, not inside the container. Yeah. So this is really nice, and it used to be called Docker Bash, so I'm going to run the command Docker Bash, but it's exactly the same thing. So the first thing we need to do is go back to the terminal, and we need to what do we need? Oh, Docker PS will show us what containers are running. So we have our blog API. Really just need to memorize just enough that's unique. So FB7 works, Docker bash or SSH, FB7, and that will actually take us in the container. You'll see that it changed from video to the actual container's ID. So now I'm inside the container, and now I can look at the logs, which are at var log nginx error.log. If I go there, press Shift G, takes you to the bottom, and now we see the actual errors that are causing the problem. So if we scroll up a little bit, exception, runtime rack, secret keybase for production environment. That's right. The production. What is a good way to do this then? Because the What's the command for it? Set these values in secrets YML. There's usually the command in here. It tells you, hey, run this. I can't remember what the command is. I think it's just rake secret. Okay, well, since it is supposed to be secret, I'm going to do this on the other screen, and I'm just going to add that secret key in. Hopefully I can find the right command to run to generate that key. Home app, blog API, and rake, what is it, secret? Rake secret. Aha! Yes, that was what I wanted. Okay, so I copy this over. So basically you run rake secret, and then you go into your secrets.ymi file, and you add that to it. So we will well, we need to go out. I know you guys can't see this, I'm sorry. Docker, no, exit. Yeah, use exit to get out of your container. And then I'm going to go into Vim, config, and secrets.yml, and I'm going to take this and make sure I go into insert mode and then paste the secret key in here. Copy, save, and clear that. All right. So then, now that I have that in there, what I'm going to do is I need to make sure that my gitignore file is not going to check that in, because I usually, like, if I make changes on the server itself, I will pull down. So we just need to make sure that the secret.yml file is not being stored in or not being sent across. So put that wherever, really. And it's what, config, and big, and secrets.yml. So that's just going to protect that if I pull it back down, it's not actually going to make it into the it's not going to make it into the repository for the public to take a look at the secret key and stuff like that. Okay, so now that we have that, right, so we've updated it a little bit, we can sh, and we will our deploy. We will run our deploy script again. Why am I running it again? Because I made the change on the host and not inside the container. And it's always good to do things from deploy. So you make a change, redeploy, make a change, redeploy, make a change, redeploy, instead of making changes to the deployed code. I mean, that may be okay to try to figure out something, try to get something to maybe work or experiment with something. But you don't want to do that every time. As far as you don't want to make all your changes in your production environment and then the next, and then either forget or haven't tested it, and then a month later you realize you need to redeploy it, and now you're up against the same bugs and the same problems. So it's a good methodology to make sure that you're actually deploying things when you make changes. So make changes and then go through your deployment process, and that way when it works, hey, I have a deployable package that is what I need. So yeah, that's the big thing for that. So once this is done, hopefully this has this will fix the Nginx issue, and it'll start serving correctly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag the package. Once I am happy with it, I'm going to add a tag saying that this is the version 0.1 or whatever that's on production, and that way if I ever need to go back to it or whatever, I can really easily by just using the tag. Tags also come across as quote unquote releases in GitHub, so it's kind of nice using using a native Git feature that GitHub represents in an accurate way. It is kind of like a release mark usually. Of course, you can tag things not as releases, but you can tag them just as like, hey, this is the thing with that one time. Okay, mapping values are not allowed in this context. What does that mean? What's in secrets? Did I mess something up? I did. Yep, I completely did. I didn't do this right, and that's not going to work. I need this to go here. That doesn't look right at all. Oh, because you can't do that in... Vim! No! Sorry, love-hate relationship with Vim since I don't know it that well. It's a really nice editor. It's very complex. You can do amazing things with it if you know what you're doing, which I do not quite yet. But I do feel that if you're going to be in the Linux Unix world, it's kind of an essential value or essential element of, it's like one of the most popular text editors to date in the Linux and Unix world. There we go. That looks a lot better. So we're going to save that in. Okay, and now we can try the deploy again. What else can I talk about? What other videos would you guys like to see? What other things would you like? Hopefully, possibly, by the time this video comes out, there might be some sort of commenting interface or something. I'm planning on also doing a mailing, like a subscription thing, so like I can send you an email when I put out a new episode of something, or stuff like that. Like, what are some of your favorite series? What would you like to see more of? Are there any languages or things specifically that you would like to see? Types of projects, things like that. I'm pretty open to doing a lot of things. I think that development, as you'll find as I do all these different types of videos, you'll really find it's all really just the same. You write some code, you debug it, you get it to work, you figure out what's wrong, you're reading log files, you deploy things. It's all the same. Whether you're doing a game or you're doing a website or you're doing a console application, you really go through most of the same process. And so that's why I'm taking a very language agnostic approach to everything, because it's not always, this is how this is development in JavaScript. And that's completely different than development in Rails. What you'll find is that the language, yes, is different, but the logic is usually the same. A lot of the thought processes, the patterns can be the same. Sometimes they're very different. But the steps that you go through, including deployments and debugging is definitely, putting bybug inside your Rails application and then checking the output is the same as doing console.log in your JavaScript application. Um, so uh, there are lots of different ways of doing a lot of these things. So yeah. Oh, I do realize a small mistake that I made in this is that I don't have a what did I say? Blog API data. I don't have that folder. Or did it create it for me? Yes, it did create it for me though. That's really cool. But there's nothing in it, which is kind of perturbing. But really, I just want to see, does this work? So if we refresh the blog, we now get no errors, but no views. Check our network. We do have a 500 error. We're sorry, but something went wrong. Okay, well now we made it to Rails, so we're through Nginx, and now we're actually in Rails. So that's good. That's a good step. So now we need to debug that. Vim, I know this is getting kind of long, I'm sorry guys, but I like to try to get something completed in each video. And, well, I mean, you can always, stop it, come back and watch the rest later. So, var log nginx. No, why is that not working? Oh, because I'm not inside the container. Haha. Docker ps, and then docker bash, and we want 81f. 81f. And then now we can do vim r var log nginx error log shift G to take us to the bottom, and now we can see what's going on. We scroll up past through all the stack trace, and we can see started put, can't open exception, unable to open database file. Probably due to a permissions thing. What we probably need to do is I'm just going to do it right here on the server, so we can we can test this out and see what's going on. But we're going to, I think it's chown, OWN app, the user app, to home app and blog API. And now you simply just refresh and just confirm. Yep, still 500 errors. So we shift G again. And did we get a different error? Did we get the same error? Is the question. Can't open exception. Yep, still getting the same error. So we need to no, not database. It's in DB. It should be production. No, what's in DB? We need to ls our home app blog API and DB folder. And there's nothing in there. Okay, so there really is nothing in there. I thought that there would be. Oh, I guess it overwrote it because it was mounted. Okay. I know this is getting long. I'm sorry, guys. Blog API. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna move. We move some things around. So we're gonna exit out the container. We're gonna add our local changes. Adding changes from server, so we can go back. Push. Oh, really? Oh. Do I really? Yeah, really? Okay, git config global user email. Okay, and then user name. Okay, so now git commit. We can just run the same command. All right, git push origin master. We'll push that back. Enter in credentials. Okay. So now we need. We do need to. We're going to pull our updates, and then we are going to rework this a little bit. So in the documentation, it does mention about how do I run scripts on the deployment or after the deployment. So when you find that section, running command inside a running container. You know, I can do that manually. Actually, so let's just do that for the moment, just so that we can confirm that things are working. So we're gonna docker ps, so we're gonna docker bash 81f. We're gonna go inside, and now we're going to cd to home app blog API, and then we're gonna run rake db migrate, and hopefully it will create our database for us. I didn't see it do anything. There's a development there. Well, we do want to run this in production. So we actually need to do environment. Oh, what is it called? Oh, Rails environment equals production. And then we do rake db migrate. And then if we, yep, now we have our production database. And so it should be as simple, hopefully, as just try again. 44 not found. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting a different error. Okay, so I'm gonna need to remove some things around and rework things. I'm gonna basically have this migrate command run after the after it's deployed instead of during the deployment. But we'll get to that. So now we have that deployed. Now we need to see what's now what is the error. So we've got var log nginx error shift G takes us to the bottom and scroll up. Routing error, no route matches, put hit series. Okay, that's right. Okay, so this is the side effect of this is how this is considered the blog or the blog ID in from Jekyll, and I tried to URL encode this, and I believe that it URL decoded it. So this is kind of not so great. One of the other things I can do is I can create a manual blog ID, which I don't think is a bad idea actually. And so let's do that. So we're gonna go back to the repository, and we're going to go into the blog, and we're going to, inside of our posts, we are going to create a, which one are we on? Blog API episode 1. And we're going to create a new variable in here called post ID. Well, let's call it ID, and then I'll give it just an arbitrary ID of, well, what is this? How many episodes have I released at this point? Get Basics, Tetris 1, 2. That's, well, I'll make these numerical. I could make these GUIDs. So for, let's see, how do I want them to all follow kind of the same format and be easily reproducible. Well, just for testing purposes, let's put this at 100, even though I know that by that, or I'm not going to go with integers, but we're just testing. So we'll say that has a post ID of 100. And then inside of our layout file, which is here, layouts post, edit that, and we will change this, instead of passing in the page.id, we're going to do post.id, and that should now pull from our post file. And if we refresh this, we still get a 4.4, but I need to make sure that we have the latest version of stuff. What did I send across? Nope, I'm still sending this whole thing. So it's not, it doesn't recognize my changes yet. Oh, now it's just nothing. So apparently it didn't like that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this off for the moment, and we're gonna pick up where we left off. I might even release both of these together, but this is just getting really, really long. So that's Docker and its deployment system. And next time we're gonna fix all the stuff that I messed up. See you guys next time.